She has been recognized as one of the young leaders at Business World Disrupt 40 under 40. She's been associated with Shemaroo Entertainment Limited since the last 16 years and heads all the strategic business initiatives. In her current role, she heads a diverse set of businesses. It is my great pleasure in talking face-to-face with none other than Ms. Kranti Gada, Chief Operating Officer of Shemaroo Entertainment Limited, who has played a pivotal role in the transformation of Shemaroo, which is now a significant player in the digital ecosystem across the globe. Welcome to our studio.
Thanks, Nidhi, for having me here.
It's absolute honor to have you, Kranti. My first question to you, back in India, your company's motto has been India खुश हुआ. अब आप US आई हैं, आप US में अमेरिका को खुश करने आई हैं.
No, absolutely. So in fact, when we were formulating India Khush Hua, we said, is it India or Indians? And we said, actually, India captures the spirit of India worldwide. So we are here, Indians ko khush karne aaye hain.
Wonderful.
That is the primary objective. And yes, any American who loves Indian cinema and is an Indian at heart would also enjoy. But Shemaroo is into mainstream mass Bollywood. That's our mainstay. So therefore, it's the entire India that, and therefore even the play of words between India and Khush, like being more mass.
That's true. So talk about your objective of coming to United States besides enjoying the wonderful summer here.
So, we set up our US office approximately 4 years back, and we've been doing a lot of interesting things here, including our app, Shemaroo Me, and many other initiatives. Unfortunately, last 2 years, one couldn't travel because of the pandemic, and I really wanted to understand the US market firsthand. It is a very, very unique and yet very, very a market which has a lot of opportunities for us. So I'm here, it's on the anvil of many new things that we're about to launch in the next couple of months to see how the market can shape up for us and how we can become a bigger and more significant player here.
That sounds so exciting. But before I shoot some serious work related questions, I'm very curious about your name. क्या विचारधारा थी आपके माता पिता के जहन में जब उन्होंने आपका नाम क्रांति रखा? क्या उन्हें पहले से इस बात का अंदेशा था कि उनकी बेटी डिजिटल ब्रॉडकास्टिंग की दुनिया में कोई क्रांति मचाने वाली है?
I don't know. I think the credit goes to my parents, and actually it was my dad who really loved the name, and I think against a lot of protests from my mom, he prevailed. But it's not an easy name to carry, I must say. Wherever you go, people either make fun of it or have some sort of an expectation.
Really? But they'll always remember you.
Actually, I must thank them for this. It's not easy to forget this name, and yeah, it does stand out.
It does.
Thank you.
So when India was transitioning, or let's say getting curious about the digital broadcasting, how fast were you in convincing your company to start sprinting already? How challenging was it? Talk about the roadblocks in the journey.
Yeah, so I joined Shemaroo in 2006, and I was never part of the traditional business. I joined and set up the digital initiatives. Or 2007-8, around that time, the bandwidth in India was really nothing to talk about.
Yes.
Right? The definition of broadband in India at that time was 128 Mbps.
Wow,
okay?
Talk about that.
So,
मतलब लोग देखें या pirated डाउनलोड करें पूरी रात.
हाँ, तो it was really challenge over there, and honestly video delivery over that network was impossible. We started off with like 10-second, 30-second videos being delivered over the mobile network, and the fixed broadband penetration in India was a big challenge, and it still is not great. Really what has exploded for India is the telecom or mobile delivered internet. initially when we figured that video pe challenge hai, so we turned our attention to audio and imagery. So imagery from our films, audio in terms of songs, from we ourselves, Shemaroo doesn't have a very strong audio music catalog, so we actually partnered with a lot of labels and created this whole network of partners who were yet not that advanced or ahead in the digital game, and we helped give them a platform in the digital platforms.
So you brought about all these mergers.
Yeah. So
wow.
It was very telco-led initially, tied up with the various telecom operators in India and set up the whole network for delivery of our content at that point. I still remember at that time US was much ahead in the game, and very often we would get so many people from the US or companies from the US trying to set up websites. This is before Netflix really happened, and they would come and license our catalogs, but somehow many of them were not able to get the magic formula, which finally I think was led by Netflix at the end. So
but you were one of the first players to get on YouTube also and get it monetized.
Absolutely. So roughly in 2009, when YouTube first started its India operations, we were one of the first few people, I think amongst the first 10, I think we were. In fact, we are one of the few people who have a paper contract with Google.
Wow.
Most people have a click-through digital contract with them. Also, back then, people thought that YouTube would primarily be used to promote a film. So you put out promos and trailers and songs and make something popular, and people would come and buy your DVD for that, because of that. And we were one of the first few digital players, or rather media houses, and I along with my team and my boss at that point, and thanks to him to have the faith in me at that time, convinced internally that no, we should put up our entire content, or rather the full film, on YouTube. So can you imagine, we are on one hand selling a DVD of the movie for 250 rupees, 300 rupees in India, and then to convince someone that I'm going to put it out for free on YouTube and earn couple of paise per view of that film. It was a very difficult decision. But I think the early entry and the early audiences that we gathered on YouTube are a very big strength for the presence we have today on YouTube. Today we have, a very big network. We have over 160 million subscribers, aggregate at network level. A couple of our big channels include Filmi Gaane, which just reached 60 million subscribers. It's the 20th most subscribed channel in the world. So
wow, I did not know that.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
Wow.
And can you believe it? The entire viewership and subscriber base on Filmi Gaane is organic, and largely it's old Hindi music. So if a channel with old Hindi music can reach a number 20 spot in the world as subscribers, I think that says a lot for the popularity and intrinsic value of that content. We also, what we did on YouTube at that point was we used a lot of skills that we had developed in the home video space into the YouTube space also. So we had research teams, A&R teams who actually made compilations, scene extractions, etc. for YouTube the same way that they did it on DVDs. So we retrained people to think digital at that point.
Are you remastering the prints also when you put it?
Of course, absolutely. It's a continuous process. So at Shemaroo, we have our own studio. We have a very big restoration facility, and we always digitally restore all the films. And if you see the kind of quality of films that we put out, you will be able to see the difference clearly. We have a big focus on maintaining the quality of our catalog and library. So
wonderful. So technology is changing every 2 to 3 years. What steps in terms of content creation, marketing and distribution do you take to be a step ahead or two of your competition?
So I would say embracing change, leading change and innovation. Many a times the change actually is not being led by Bollywood or the films. It's being led by individual creators or new disruptive technology players. And many of them want to do things with Bollywood and films because that gives them scale and instant recognition. And we're always open to such partnerships, and we experiment a lot on these platforms. In fact, I would say even back in 2009, the willingness to experiment and put out stuff on a YouTube was something which helped us. So one is always staying in touch with newer, younger, talent, content creators, giving them a platform, working with them, as well as with newer, younger platforms, and trying to always experiment. In fact, I would say the ability to reinvent ourselves is a very, very core focus or a core trait of ours, which has kept the company going. So media as a space has always been disrupted by technology, right? I would say even in probably the whole cinematography technology from that time to television, home video, VHS, these were all technological disruptions that were there 30, 40 years back.
True.
So, okay, the pace of technology and disruption has increased a lot, but media players always have to be willing to experiment. So
that's true. So you do have a research department. You are working on upgrading your
absolutely.
technology.
We have a very active cell. In fact, I used to lead this NBD, New Business Development cell, before my current role. And we're always looking at doing new things, not only picking up trends and doing, in fact, we're setting a lot of trends and doing a lot of new things ourselves. So,
do you allocate more budget to traditional broadcasting or digital broadcasting?
I would say for us both go hand in hand. In fact, for us the journey has been reverse. We actually started our digital journey far ahead of our broadcasting journey. Our broadcasting journey actually, as a television broadcaster with their own TV channels, the journey is just about 2.5 years old for us. But our digital journey, I would say, is like maybe 12 years old for us. So a lot of time and focus went in building the digital ecosystem within the organization. In the last 2.5, 3 years, we've also probably done a reverse expansion in terms of setting up our broadcast channels. But we felt that integrated media house approach, actually boosts digital in a very big way, because it gives you a much wider mass reach, mass recognition, ability to create a lot of content, a lot of creation capacities come in, a lot of marketing capacities get built through, because the traditional media is still very scaled and big in India at least. So digital and broadcast actually are two sides to the same coin, which actually make a robust business model. So
in terms of content, when you choose some content for your traditional media, is it like long serials, we can go on, and versus the digital one where you have to do very cutting edge and there's so much competition? Those are not the rejects that are going to the traditional.
Absolutely. The thought process is very different. You're absolutely right. So television is about a daily appointment viewing, right? So people want to come in every day and at an appointed hour and watch something or the same thing which they're familiar with, and it's like a de-stress moment for the family where they know what they're going into, while the digital audience many a times wants to experiment, watch something new in a newer format. Many a times it's not a daily viewing. For many people it's just a weekend binge viewing.
That's true.
So we do create separately for both. So our television content is very focused on this daily habit appointment viewing. And for the digital audiences, so on Shemaroo Me in Gujarati, we have created a lot of interesting web series content like Yamraj Calling or Goti Soda, Shadyantara, which is again this binge viewing but limited number of episodes, which a consumer can go in, finish those number of episodes and feel satisfied at the end of it for the viewing experience. I would also say the kind of topics that are dealt with are slightly different. They are a little bit more edgy or pushing the edge a little more on the digital side.
So in today's era, consumer is the king and he or she can have varied preferences in terms of content selection. Who is your target audience and how do you ensure that the right content is delivered to that audience?
So, if I were to break this up into YouTube as well as Shemaroo Me as two digital platforms, I would say for Shemaroo, it's digital network on YouTube and Shemaroo Me are two separate TGs that we're dealing with. On the Shemaroo network on YouTube, it's an absolute mass Indian audience that we're dealing with. So this is the person who loves the dances and the singing and the fights and the comedy and the hamming. And as again India Khush Hua, it's a very mass brand, broad-based. So for example, Filmi Gaane, as I said, with 60 million subscribers, it gets close to 100 million unique users on a monthly basis, which, it is not just the metro or even tier 1. We have tier 2 towns, we have very diverse audiences. So the content is catering to that TG. The content, many a times is very, very populistic kind of content. Also what we have done is we have divided the content audience based and present them as different channels. So Filmi Gaane, obviously with as the name suggests, is a music based channel. Then we have Shemaroo Movies, which actually just delivers full length films. We have Shemaroo Comedy, which actually has a lot of comedy scenes from all the Hindi movies in different formats, compilations, or sometimes we just put comedy scenes of 2 actors and leave it to the audience to judge which actor did they like better, etc. Okay. So we have cut it out in different formats, packaged them. We've created a network of channels on YouTube based on mass popularity. On Shemaroo Me, I would say, of course, the primary TG is Bollywood. We have put out our entire Bollywood catalogue over there. But I would say a lot of the premium SWOD movies are behind the paywall on Shemaroo Me.
What does that mean?
So a film, probably a premium catalogue film like a Jab We Met. Okay, that would sit behind a paywall on Shemaroo Me and would not be available for free on YouTube. But on Shemaroo Me, what we have done is that we've decided to actually focus on certain cohorts, audience cohorts. So the first cohort that we're focusing on is the Gujarati diaspora, both in India, the Gujarati, and Indians outside of, Gujaratis outside of India. And we've worked very hard for the last 1.5 years to put out a meaningful offering to the Gujaratis. We offer one new original, content piece or digital premiere every week for them, whether it's a movie or a play or a web series that we have specifically gotten produced for the audience. And I'm happy to say that nobody is focusing on this audience and this content in the same way. If you know, Shemaroo has been in the Gujarati content space for more than 15 years. We've been, televising plays, but we said this is a time to now move it a few notches higher and take the plunge and provide really premium content for the audiences. And I would really like to say that our aim is to make Gujaratis fall in love with Gujarati content, because as you would know, Gujaratis also love consuming Hindi. So we're trying to get them to actually spend more time on their native language Gujarati content.
So when you create pilots for the shows, what is the strategy, requirements, and how do you test them? How do you create a demand for the content?
So currently I would say uh, we focus a lot more at the script level than at the pilot level, because the way the economics work out, we need to get it right at the pre-production stage in a lot better, more robust way, rather than actually shooting a pilot. And we I would say have a lot of audience, first of all, at the concept level, run it through various TGs within the Gujarati audiences. Again, I would say Gujarati the audience is, you have a family audience and then you have the youth. And Gujaratis are very, very unique in terms of that they love family content. Like, if just at the base level, a script like Yamraj Calling would have found it much more difficult to get made in Hindi, because family content is what is working on the digital for Hindi. What is probably working for Hindi is maybe crime or thrillers and that kind of content. But good for Gujaratis, family content works a lot more. So again, that was a hypothesis that we wanted to see whether it works or not. We looked at both, I would say, secondary evidence as well as primary evidence in terms of running the concept and script by people. And then we took the plunge and, got it made. And, I think this itself, I would say the idea of putting out a series like Yamraj Calling was a pilot in itself for us to see if it works or not. And we were all in a dilemma whether, while we loved the content ourselves, we didn't know whether the digital audiences would, lap it up or not. But it was really great. So
in terms of Hindi, you were saying, those audience, they prefer crime or thrillers. But I was very amazed. Yesterday or day before, I saw this trailer for Raksha Bandhan. I was like, when I just saw the teaser, I'm like, I'm not interested. But when I saw it, it's Anand L. Rai's, Akshay Kumar with 4 sisters. It's hilarious, small town. So
Sure.
I would say, it's the content. The concept can definitely work. And there's so many Hindi audiences. They still look at, Pakistani TV channels for, their home-based soap operas. So,
sure,
go for it.
So Nidhi, I agree with you, but I would say if you see the proportion, I agree that a content like Raksha Bandhan is absolutely great. If you see the proportion of what's coming out in Hindi for digitally created content, I'm not talking about the soaps. Of course, the daily soaps are absolutely in the family zone, but if you look at the content being put out currently for digital, it is more in the crime and thriller space.
Honestly, I am very saturated with so much of that stuff,
I agree. Yeah. I'm not saying the other stuff will not work. I'm just saying that that's currently what the industry is putting out. Yeah. I also completely agree that there will be a saturation point and people will want a break and will want to focus on family or comedy or fun stuff also. But I think it's an evolution journey for the industry also. I mean, it's a very, very nascent industry, right? Like original content creation at this scale for digital is probably just a couple of years old. And I think the initial early adopter audiences probably were the ones which enjoyed maybe thriller and crime content a lot more. But as the audience base expands, and we get in a wider base of the audience, of course, all the genres will be adopted and will find their place.
So coming back to your Gujarati show, Shadyantra, it was one of the mega series in Gujarati that you produced. How about coming up with some pan-Indian, since that's such a fashionable word these days, translating it into other languages, international languages. You'll find audience like, Guyanese, Sri Lankan. They want to see Caribbean, they want to see Hindi content or other languages with, translated or dubbed.
Sure. I think it's a definitely a thought that we've dabbled with many a times. And so for some of the I would say slightly more broad-based languages like Arabic. So we do dub our content into Arabic and put it out. We put it out on TV channels in those regions, as well as on YouTube, and see how it goes. In fact, we also dub in English, and the audiences also lap up that. But it's a very interesting thought, and I would say Spanish is another language which we've been tossing around in our minds, and I hope that we'll be able to broad base the languages. But I do agree with one thing, that great content cuts across languages. True. And I think it's definitely worth focusing on a couple of, or maybe one language to start with, and see how we can entrench ourselves as a player who provides that content. Because it's not about putting out a couple of pieces of content. You need to build that audience base. So the audience needs to understand that, okay, from this house or this platform, I can expect this on a regular basis, and I will come back for it. So I think that process of building the audience and viewership is also important. You cannot, today's day and age, with the amount of content available, you can't just put something out there and hope that it will be consumed.
Yeah, that's true. So you are producing a web series based out of Florida, New York and New Jersey. That's in Gujarati too. Talk about that and some of the new and exciting things that the audience can look forward to, especially in the US.
Not a web series, but we're producing two shows. One is a travel show, and one is the Great American Guju Show, which is an assortment of an interview and covering some local events. Because I think when we launched even Gujarati on Shemaroo Me, we were very clear that we would focus on the US as a very big market for us, because it's got a lot of Gujaratis who consume a lot of Gujarati content. And one of the ways to actually entrench ourselves locally would be to create local flavored content. And we've produced I think 26 episodes already of the show, and we will be coming up with the next season soon. The show gives an opportunity to for people even in India to see what the life of a Gujarati in America is like, up close and personal, because we cover local events like a local picnic or a Samaj activity, etc., as well as an interview with a local personality. So I think the Indians in India, rather Gujaratis in India, are equally interested to see what it is like over here. And over here, I think because America is such a large country, people get to understand what's going on with their brethren in other parts of the country, and it's always good to connect with that.
That's true. So are you aware that in United States itself there is sort of an untapped film industry which is waiting to be nurtured, shaped, grown or corporatized? How about giving opportunities to South Asian filmmakers to tell their stories?
Yeah, I think Nidhi, that's a great idea. Honestly, we've not actively thought about it or done it, but it's definitely something that a platform like Shemaroo would love to take on, because we have a presence, a robust, entrenched presence now in the US and definitely back home in India, and we could give Indian films made in films made by Indians in the US. Pan-India distribution. So would be happy to look into it for sure.
Wonderful. So it was wonderful talking to you, Kranti. Wishing you all the success in chartering new territories, both in traditional and digital stream.
Thank you so much, Nidhi, and to ITV Gold for having me here today. It was an absolute pleasure. Thank you.